Welcome back to Fighters Drinking Coffee. We've been talking a lot recently about training, kind of competition mindset and preparation for competitions. And actually, this morning we had a really diverse group of people at training from a bunch of different academies. Some new people who haven't been in that room with us in the past, and some people that have been newly coming on a higher frequency. So I thought it might be good to talk about some cross training and kind of get into benefits, downsides, maybe. I don't know, like see kind of where it goes. But yeah, we had some good training. We had some pretty good names in there too. It was a really good group of guys, and like we had Cameron Hurd there today. Yep. So we had this like these varying levels. A lot of people who compete at super fights. We have people who don't. So like, maybe we kind of get into what's your thought process on,
dude? Like you said, like big group today for 8 a.m. training on a Saturday, which is always cool to see because not that many people want to come in at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, which means Friday night you should be going to bed kind of early and then waking up not like 10 minutes before you train. So it just mandates a certain prioritization of training and that for the athlete, if that's kind of says something about who they are and like what they value. But yeah, dude, it was really good. And now we've got guys and gals coming in from Beta via the the relationship and networking we have with Nakapan and his group of guys, which are great. Like you said, Cam swing throughs down at Silverback. I don't know, they go by Ascend now?
They're Ascend now.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. But that crew, good dude. He's a pro level grappler, competes all over all the time, very disciplined. It's always awesome to have someone who like holds himself to a certain professional standard, comes in and this was immediately a good fit in the group. And a bunch of other dudes, like Casey brought in a buddy of his who's got a slick, like also like a diverse style.
He's got a very bendy guard. Like that's a different look too than what a lot of the other people in the room is. Like a very different look, which is very cool.
Totally, man. And like, yeah, to that point, right? Like, I mean, like it was awesome having Cam. Cam has a pretty similar style to like myself and a lot of the guys at DMA who like to wrestle a lot. He's capable of doing a lot of things really well. Don't get me wrong, but there's like a certain consistency there, and there's awesome training. Even to have somebody who does that a little bit differently. He has his way of how he attacks, but to have a dude like his name's Tim,
yeah,
who presents a different, like that's so valuable, right? Because we're all, myself, Cam, like all of us who like have our style, we need to see those other versions because those dudes are out there. Yeah, these guys are out there in tournaments, man. Like you're gonna see these like bendy, flexible, complex, like really good guard players, dudes who just bring a different variation to the game of jiu-jitsu. So yeah, like point being, it's nice having that unique look when you're on the mat. To the point of like cross training, I think like one of the biggest and best things about it is that, when you're all of us have like an HQ, we have like our main place that we train. And that's obviously super important too, because you need that continuity. You need like your home base, you need your coaching, you need like the guys who've been with you for a long time, like what path you're on and kind of keep steering you towards that.
Yeah, they keep you kind of pushing in the direction, and they're guiding you.
Yeah, they're guiding you. And like if you have like a head coach who's helping steer you in your career in a certain direction, they know big picture what you're trying to do, and they can bring in or introduce different unseen elements like a cross training scenario to continue to force adaptation and skill development against unique looks. Because like like Cam or Gina, who came over from Beta, like Cam's first time coming in here, he knows me and he knows a couple of the guys. I think he knows Noah, the wrestlers, like they all kind of know each other, but he knows a few dudes and he's been around a lot of DMA guys. So like, I mean, there's like a comfort, I think, to that, but he doesn't know our styles like super well. Gina's the same way. She's at Beta, and she comes in, also like super valuable for Andrew to have no like high level, good, like competitive athlete female who she can get some work with too. But I bring them up because like they're coming in to visit us. They're going to have that, what would you call it? Sort of like, there's like the phrase that comes to mind for me is like stress inoculation. I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but where like they have to go into like a newer environment and face people they don't know, and therefore have to like problem solve. Like, I mean, I know most everyone in the room. I don't know them that well, actually. So that's kind of that gives me as a guy in my own home base the opportunity to see some different people too, and a little bit of that is transferred over to me. But for the most part, the rest of the room are guys that I know really well, gals that I know really well, and anyways, like as an aside, like you can do that and have that continuity, but then like introduce new variables. That's why we do these situational trainings. So it's not always the same thing. Like it's not always me trying to just take guys and gals that I know and force them into the same habits over and over again that we might get. And
do my move that I like to do
yeah,
for the next position.
Exactly, man.
Versus,
so like that's why we do those scenarios. So we can mix things up and like everyone gets a unique read, even if it's someone you know really well. But again, putting it back on the dudes who came to visit us, they get to have like almost like I call it a mini like comp experience. Like I'm going to go into a new place. I'm going to compete, like work my game with people I don't really know. So it's a good way to keep that like, discovery of the unknown process, which is what you get when you go compete. And I think it's like a really healthy exercise. And that's like, in a lot of ways, one of the best things about a cross training culture that's valuable.
Yeah, you get a little bit of that. And like, I get it on a smaller scale when I come train with over at DMA with you, because
you've known us for so long.
I've known you guys
and
long
you've been coming in for months now. So it's sort of like there's like
you're shrinking down now, but like there's
you get that
it's new people, and so like you get you almost get this like it's like a safe space. Like it's safe because like you've been invited there, like you know someone there, right? Like sometimes, but like in this specific scenario, like
a lot of the guys,
somebody, you're coming in and like you get kind of this like safe space to test stuff out against someone who doesn't really know your game, and so like you get to see some of what works and what doesn't against different style, because like you get it against, you don't know what that person does, and so like you can kind of cheat in the gym at your headquarters sometimes, because you know what your usual training partners like to do, especially that way you're not designing your game around about capitalizing on a known factor. You start to get some of the unknown factor, and you get to really like figure out the way to implement your game with like that unknown, that surprise, that a little bit of that like stress of not knowing somebody. And so it makes a big difference. I try to go whenever I'm in another town or city and like hop into somewhere, even for just like an open mat or an hour. Like,
dude, it helps. It helps a lot, man. Because like you said, like, I mean, if you're in a lot of ways, I think this is kind of, or it could be for anybody, but it is oriented towards someone who's trying to like be a successful competitor, because that's all competitions really are. It's like you're going to go out onto, I guess, a neutral mat space, go against guys. You may know some of them. That happens quite a bit actually, but in most cases, it's going to be against people you never rolled against, and they're matched up in your division based on skill level. Like it should be an appropriate like balanced match against a balanced competitor, but a qualified balanced competitor. But you don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
you can look stuff up, you can study tape, you can like there's quite a bit of homework you can do, but still, nonetheless, even with all that, it's like you're gonna have to go out and deal with that in the moment. So that exercise of, like you said, showing up and being like, all right, like kind of have an idea of what this person does, but I've never experienced it before. I'm not on my home turf. Like, all right, this is, in a lot of ways, it resembles the experience of going out and competing. So I think that to me is like a big thing. I think that helps those guys who are, and by the way, like all, Cam and Gina both, they competed like a week ago.
Yeah.
At the NGA thing we went to. I don't know if we talked about this on this episode, but dude, just sidebar comment real fast. Shout out to Becca and Gina who fought in the ladies tag team match. But dude, at NGA, it was awesome. It was, for those listening,
definitely check out, because so the NGA did like a micro pit. I don't know, a small.
Yeah, they had a pit.
Pit.
They had a pit.
So they did a super fight format. They did a
Masters trio,
so sort of like quintet, but 3-man team.
14 brackets. Shout out to Tim Nakapan and Colton Smith, who went out and won, and those guys are like the Avengers.
Yeah, it was the Masters.
They're like the Avengers of Masters division, dude,
Yeah.
for the DC area. They were nasty, man. They're all awesome, and they won. But yeah, dude, that was pretty cool. It was built around that. That was kind of like the main, if you want to call it like the main event kind of thing, was those guys.
Yeah, but then Gina's event.
Yeah,
the surprise.
Dude, so what she told me was that like day of, she was supposed to have a super fight. So she was already on the card, if you will, and her buddy Becca like was there, and they're like, yo, like they went to the venue and they said, or the promoter, and said, can we do a tag team? Like I don't know where the idea came from. And I think the team they competed against was two gals.
Well, I think WrestleMania was that weekend, so maybe they were psyched up.
All right, I like that. Yeah, I like that. That actually makes perfect sense. But she said that they like Gina's opponent was a gal from Enlisted 9, Colton's team, and they're tough, man. They're good. And she like the other team, like she had another buddy, another female from the same team. So they're like, yo, we can do a tag team match. So, I've never seen a tag team match in jiu-jitsu competitions before. I'm sure they've been done before, but I've never seen one. So this is my first experience with one. And the venue was like, yeah, dude, we'll do it. Like NGA was like, okay, or that wasn't the venue. Venue was High Noon, but you get what I'm saying. The promoter was like, yeah, man, we're down. Like, all right, but we don't really know exactly what the format should look like, but we'll run it. And so they even said that. They did like a preface at the event. The guy in the mic was like, all right, like we've never done one of these before, so bear with us. We don't exactly know how to run it, but we have an idea. We're just going to go with it. So if you guys go with it too, we're all going to have a good time. And we did have a good time. And yeah, I mean, like we don't have to like go down this rabbit hole too far, but like they ran a tag team match, and the way they did it in the pit was like the girls had to be, the girls who weren't competing at the start had to be like in their corners. They had to put their foot in the corner of the pit and be just like WrestleMania. They have to like slap their teammate for them to come in. And I don't know if this is always going to be the format, but like at least for this one, the way they had it was like you could do that unlimited amount of times. If you can make contact with your teammate, she'll jump in. And so it quickly escalated to like chaos, fast pace, mania.
Well,
like
especially with that small pit.
Like, oh, dude, the
pit, reach it across.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's not a huge mat surface. The pit is super interesting in general for like jiu-jitsu tournaments. Like I have a feeling those are going to become a lot more common just because even the regular matches were a little bit more exciting because of the pit. But for this, it was nice because they could get to the corner like fairly easily. And so there were like tons of like tag exchanges flying back and forth. And like one girl would be on another girl's back or like in an arm bar about to submit the other one. The other lady would hit the tag. Her friend would come in. She'd jump and she'd immediately start attacking the other girl who was just about to win. And so it was like back and forth, nonstop action. The crowd was screaming. I was screaming. It was insane. At one point, like it kind of like, I mean, here's my thing. I liked the chaos of it. It made it so, it was the most compelling match of the entire day. It was that, like pay those girls. That was awesome. But
you had really high level matches, so like that
those
a big.
No, I know you're right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of praise. Like I mean, like and those girls are good too. Like their skill level is good. I believe. I mean, I know Becca and Gina. I know they compete a lot. Like they're skilled competitors. I don't know the other two gals that well, but they looked pretty sharp from what I saw. So those like the skill level for those ladies was pretty high to begin with. But like we just mentioned, there was like a black belt trio style thing. Like in theory, those and they were the main event. Black belt teams, like that should be the highest skill level, right? This is my way of saying like that doesn't always, I mean, like the way they format the match can make it the most exciting thing, which is what happened. Mm-hmm. The last thing I'll say about it was like at one point in time, it got a little bit too chaotic. I say that in quotes because I thought the whole thing was awesome. So I still, for those listening, I mean, if you're a promoter, I don't know how you do this, but like some of that chaos made it fucking awesome.
Oh, I mean, maybe tag team matches should be a future.
It should be a future thing. It was
future of,
dude. I was so I loved it. I was so engaged, and I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been to a million tournaments. I've been to like all the different variations of them. This was the coolest one I'd ever seen, and they were flying around the mat. Like there was at one moment where like I think it's happened on both teams. Like some of the girls who were out, like they kind of stretched a little bit out of their corners. whatever. Maybe that's the only thing you change. Just keep him in the corner. I don't know. It still made for the most exciting shit I've ever seen. It was they were just tagging in, out, flying around offense. Like immediately the person who is tagged in is jumping right into like a submission threat as fast as they can, which then means the other person's like scrambling to get back to their corner. So it's like tag in, tag in. It was awesome.
Yeah, Andrea was talking about it this morning. I heard her say she was watching the live stream. And so like the live stream commentators were just like saying like, I think they cheated again. Well, no, the other team cheated.
Yeah,
like
the cheating, if you want to call it that, was
for the tags.
It was equal. It was equal for what it's worth. And again, it was like they've never done one of these, so we're gonna give them a pass. Why did I bring that up? I think I brought it up because I was saying like we have competitors who are pretty
it was
pretty active.
People here this
Gina
morning,
she's back in the gym already. She's probably got more action lined up for the rest of the year, tournament wise, competition wise. So she needs to stay sharp. So yeah, like, but as a visitor, these folks are getting that exposure to different people. In like a fairly like, it's the good thing about that crew that's down there is everyone's like, we're all trying to like, I mean, we had one small minor incident, but it's okay.
Yeah,
we don't need to talk about it.
Somebody did that.
We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to talk about it, but for the most part, it's controlled.
Our hearts go out to him, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, Dan, if you're listen to this, man, I hope your leg's okay. I'm sure it is. He sounds like he gave me a text. He's doing all right.
Just send him flowers, man.
I'll buy him some food. I'll buy him a bunch of stuff. I'll buy him some Zins.
There you go.
That he likes that. Yeah, I'll take care of him.
Zin. Do they have edible arrangements for Zins?
No, that's a great idea. Yeah, how could you imagine if I could throw in like a ribeye?
Yeah,
he's big on grilling these days. I'm gonna give him he's got a badass Traeger.
Shout out Big Steak,
big steak, guys. I'll give him some steak, some fruit, some Zins. I'll take care of him. But anyways, for the most part, like those
sponsors.
Yeah, dude, for sure. The room is like it's a good environment for that. Everyone's like there's basically no rest. Like we're gonna like attack each other for a long time, but like you get that exposure. It's not super high risk. That's why I say it's like a low dose of like competition environment. Like competition environment, people are really trying to they're trying to win, right?
Yeah, you have controls outside of just a referee, right? Like there's definitely a different vibe in, or at least there should be, in the room versus like when people are looking for the podium, right? Like
100%.
Someone hunting to get that medal should be going at a way different pace than someone at the gym, especially their own gym, if they're, being a good training partner, right? Because we're all there to train. We're not there to you shouldn't be trying to kill each other.
Right.
So,
right.
Obviously you want intensity, but like,
you can do both. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can get the intensity, but also keeping it like well curated for everyone's well-being.
You want to keep the next person to the next round, right?
Yeah.
Like at least at the bare minimum.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, dude, it's interesting. Like I seen him text me about this the other day. He's asking me like, what's my thoughts on cross training or whatever. And this is my thought on cross training. It's as a coach, like I think out of the people who I coach, Andrea is probably one of the best at like actively getting out to other places to cross train quite a bit. She does that. I want to say 2 or 3 times a week. She gets to like other rooms against other people, and it obviously shows with like how successful she's been too with like the work she's doing in that regard. So I do recommend it where you can do it. My only caveat is like it's kind of like what we talked about. Think about where you're going, who's in charge over there. If it's like good people, good leadership, and like they're gonna try to provide a similar culture for all the reasons we just talked about. Like in other words, how hostile of an environment are you going into?
Yeah,
to put it bluntly. Because there's going to be and I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, but like you go into someone else's house, like they're going to try and beat you a little bit. That's okay. That's kind of why you go. You go, you're like, all right, I want to get some good rounds, tough rounds.
To make sure they're not trying to hurt you.
That's right.
That's really it.
That's it.
Like you want them to try to beat you. You just don't want them to be looking to prove something, I guess is the better way to put it. I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
They're not trying to take a piece of you home. Yeah, I mean, I totally cross training's hella important, especially like if you have that like performance anxiety issue within some of your competitors. Like it's a good way to start working that out because it's immersion therapy, right? Like if being against an unknown opponent causes anxiety within you, then you need to put yourself against those people at a higher frequency, whether that's like, hey, let's go hit some small like smaller competitions that you might feel have a lower stakes on the line. Let's go out there and like put ourselves against these people, or, that's an option. Or like, hey, in the instance of the guys that at Battlefield with me, like we have 2 other affiliated gyms that are probably the same distance from their house. So like you could go and pop over from Battlefield, you could go to Vanguard, you can go to Dominion, you can like kind of pop in and get a different look, but like it's all under the same, it's all grand scheme, the same team, but like you can go and train with people you don't train with all the time. And some of them are going to be guys you're going to compete against. So, like you're going to be able to get that new thing or that immersion into that like slightly stressful situation of not knowing what's going on and not have to worry about like, you already know somebody there. You have an anchor point that like for both of you. So you know that like, all right, well, this is going to be fine. We're on the same team. We're just, so there's a bunch of different ways to.
Well, how was it for you coming into DMA doing that? Maybe like thinking a couple months back when you're.
Yeah, like when we first started doing
when you were doing it, like, when you first started doing it more frequently or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, not, I've done it long enough that like, I kind of, it's not too bad, but like, yeah, when I pop in and like the first time around, it's all new people and like, you don't necessarily know what their level is. Yeah. You don't know what their game is. And so like, you have to approach like a little softly because
it's gonna ask about that.
It's gonna be safer for you, right? Like if you go in and you go like
guns blazing,
like you will create that like
you become
hostile,
a target.
Yeah, you become a target environment.
Yeah.
So you want to like you kind of ease in and like you want to play a good game, but like maybe you don't go straight in with your A game because especially if you plan on coming back.
All right.
Like
right.
You don't want to go in with your A game and be like that. You don't want to be an invader, right?
You don't be a bull in a china shop. I know exactly.
You don't want to create that environment like where like you want to create like that dojo storm environment, and then like now everybody's gunning for you in there, and like they might kind of start throwing caution to the wind. They might start trying to crank on stuff. So like, that's not really an issue we've had, but like you have to be cautious of that anytime you're going against new people outside of a competition setting. Cause like in a competition setting, like we got 5 minutes. It doesn't matter what happens after that, right? Like we can try to kill each other for 5 minutes because you don't have backup waiting for me at the other end of this 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever.
It's super interesting.
Yeah.
Man. No, I suspected you would say that. And I think that's not only normal, it's an appropriate way to do it.
And cause like, we have trained together for such a long time that like, I definitely go harder against like you, than like anyone else in the room because like, one, we know each other's games. It's relatively, and we kind of have similar games too. Yeah. Like, cause we trained together for such a long time that we went through that development phase together. So like we have a very similar base on our game. And so like, there's a different level of comfortability. Like, I know like I can go a little bit harder.
Yeah, you'll squeeze my neck a little bit definitely than maybe someone else, which is fine. I accept.
It's not mean.
No, it's necessary.
Like
I didn't bring you in to have you like go easy on my fucking skull, dude.
Like there's definitely like different things that you'll try on people that you're comfortable with versus people that like you aren't as comfortable with. And that's the same thing like at your home base too. Like when you have a new person come in, like for the most part, like I'm not going to be going for, like this morning, I'm going for like a thunderlock, like trying to rip their shoulder off. Cause like, I'm not going to be that guy either. Cause I don't want to turn that person into I don't want to create an us versus them scenario. Either. And so like, you have to be on either side of the coin too. Like you should be somewhat cautious of that. And that creates a better training environment for everybody. And then it also will help you when you go to other gyms.
Do you think the increased exposure to like these guys, there's quite a few familiar faces on the mat too. Like there's like probably, maybe like 9 or 10 people today. It was really only 4 people who aren't like headquartered at DMA on the mat. I think we had 13 guys. It's like nine. Those
Yeah, I
are
mean,
mostly familiar faces.
We
to
were
you, though.
probably, it was probably 50-50 in terms of like people who were headquartered at DMA versus not.
Yeah, you might be right. I guess.
I mean,
I think of Casey because Casey.
well, some of us
True.
are we're in,
Right.
we've been part of it at some point in time, but yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah, but what do you think about that?
I mean, I think that makes the room better. Like, I think that.
Well, I mean, let me rephrase. Because like, obviously, again, you know me. You know you can do it against me. Do you feel like you're getting some of that with like some of the other guys who you've seen?
Oh yeah,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times now.
Like, it's definitely like
it's getting more.
There's
getting more
a
comfortable.
You're kind of you start getting into that like zone of like playful, right? Like there's like once you start to get to be comfortable with people, you start to kind of have a more playful game like with each other, because like you start to get comfortable and you kind of know like, oh, well, if I go for this thing, he's going to try to do this. And then I can like kind of transition into like a different step. Like if I go for the Kimura, he's going to turn that elbow down and I'll rotate, I'll go for the back, whatever. And so, the game starts to change and you kind of start to go from like a little bit more of like 1 to 2 move jujitsu into kind of like now you're creating more of like the scrambles and flows. And so like but you still have that like a little bit of that unknown attached to it, because like you don't see each other all the time, but you start to kind of open up more. Like I know like Khaldun and I, Shane, Andrea, because they're there.
They're consistently
all
there.
the time. Yeah. And so, and I tend to end up with them when we're doing the rotations. It's just the way, it
Sometimes
works out.
it shakes
so,
out. Yeah.
So I tend to see them more often. And so, we tend to we're starting to open up more with what we're playing. And like, so it starts to create more, you get kind of out of just like a single positional struggle into, because we're doing positional smart, we're doing mostly single positions, but like you start to get into more intermediaries, and rather than just like, all right, you have my leg, 1, 2, 3, go. All right, got my leg out, or up, you got into it. And so like you start to kind of, because you know what their move A is, and so you can start to try to predict a little bit more. And so it like
develops.
It starts to develop,
and then you get. I mean, I don't want to lead the witness, but it sounds like it's becoming more valuable.
Oh yeah, it's
good.
It definitely is. And it's good to like getting different looks, because like, I have the same, I'm seeing the same like 3 to 4 other competitors 5 days a week, in terms of like guys who are active competitors at my gym during my class time,
right?
The times that I'm training,
the ones who you're like your most frequent training partners.
Yeah. And so like I have there's a very certain number, there's a set number of guys that are more active in terms of competing. And it's growing. There's more people becoming more and more interested in doing it, which is great, because whether or not you do it all the time, I think everyone should at least try it, right? They should do a competition. But there's a different level, like those people have a different switch, right? Like people who compete more. And so getting to see different looks from different people with different styles, than you see all the time, because those guys are at the same gym. They tend to have the same style. Like they tend to use very similar jujitsu.
You know what pattern? You recognize the patterns a lot more quickly.
Which is different than my jujitsu, just because of a difference of like, I've trained with a lot. They've been there the majority of their jiu-jitsu career, whereas like we've had more influences of jiu-jitsu. Even just at Nova MMA, how many different like people came in and did instruction and like.
Oh yeah, a lot.
So like you have a lot of different people like kind of introducing different styles, and so you kind of get a different style than if you have like a very specific like lineage driven style, right? So yeah, it's super beneficial. But also there is a little bit of a difference with like the people I tend to compete with don't really have the style of the guys at DMA necessarily, which is more similar to the style I play.
Right.
But, you have a lot of guys that you don't have a lot of guys in my like weight division that are playing a more like forward pressure, or, like forward pressure attack style wrestling, some amount of wrestling base jiu-jitsu. You have a lot of guys that are playing really good like guard driven jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Like, so you have guys that are kind of playing more of like a modern sport style, ground based, sweep to start versus like takedown to start. So it definitely is fun, but like you do get a slightly different, like,
I know what you mean.
There's probably more pieces to add to my training puzzle, just because of like the people I see in competition, but it definitely is good. So
yeah,
to see as many different things. So I'm still going to see people that play a more forward pressure and attack style of jiu-jitsu. So like I still need that is still.
Yeah, you want to sharpen your strengths too. And it's like there's actually this is the one thing that I'll say about that's the good thing about like your home base style guys, where like you are a lot of times playing like what you're best at. Because, well, I mean, there's all kinds of, we can go through the merits of changing that up maybe some other time. But and by that I mean like forcing yourself to fight from a position that you aren't as commonly playing. Think like playing my weaknesses, not my strengths, but
yeah, try to play the B game and the C game.
Right. Well,
start like looking at those like other.
But put that to the side for now, right? Like that's the value of like your home team practices are going to be you most of the time trying to sharpen what you're already really good at, which is for all intents and purposes, man. Like that's what you're going to go into your tournaments and do anyways. So that's I do think that should be the bulk of what you do. Is continue to sharpen the blades that are already really tight, make them as sharp as humanly possible, because it's a game. You need your playbooks, or you need your plays in your playbook, and they got to be tight, right? So that's the really good thing about like having like a good, consistent home team that's always. And if people have similar styles, they'll just like, and once they get to know your shit, if you're off by just a little bit, like you just won't get it.
So then you honest.
They keep you honest, exactly. So there's always that honing and refining of things that you're nasty at. Just continue to make that better and better. That's huge, right? And like you're gonna get a little bit of that too when you go into these cross training environments. But back to what you said, if you can introduce different, maybe more complicated because it's a little less familiar, jiu-jitsu styles against, and you put yourself against that person in these situational sparring scenarios with like guys like Nakapan, that dude Tim, like people who are like really comfortable and really good off their back. Like you need that too. And that's like where these like cross training environments are super helpful, because if we can get those bodies in the room, well, it's just someone who's going to like kind of let you play your A game, but like you're playing against their A game.
Yeah.
It's like a contrasting A game. And like, that's what I faced in my last tournament. I faced a guy I faced guys, and this has happened lots of times in my career, where I've been in a situation where like my A game is paired against another guy's A game. This naturally, like he wanted to be
where you like to go. They also like to be.
Yeah.
They like to be on the opposite side of that.
Yeah, and then you got yourself a contest.
Yeah,
and then you got yourself a contest. Which is, again, we can talk about that a whole other time, but that's the thing. That's like you want to be a little confused.
Yeah.
By someone different, right? Like if I'm going against, if me and you, who are doing mostly the same stuff in game, like in competition, one of us is forced to play from the bad position, the guy in the better position might just win.
Well, yeah, that scenario turns into like who's gonna edge out the other person to where we want to be in first, right?
And that's why we do it too, right? Like if I know, like, all right, maybe we're doing like half guard. Excuse me. I'm on the bottom. I got to separate. I got to keep you from doing what I know you want to do, and I know how you're going to do it, right? Like, I'm like, all right, like and I know you're good at it, which means then like, all right, if I don't do as much of this in bottom six, I actually usually want to be where Mike is. And like in a second, maybe like, in 25 seconds when I cycle through the next group, I might be doing that in a minute, but right now I'm doing the opposite. So you got to do it right before the other dude who's good. Like Shane's a good example too, because like Shane's so heavy. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic, and he can do all the same shit. And like if there were a couple scenarios where I was like, oh fuck. Like I'm on my back and I'm like, geez, here we go. Here comes Shane. Like I gotta get this done I can't afford to fuck it up because then I have Shane's big ass like bearing down on me, and he's gonna do it with intensity because he's fucking focused, which is great. If you're listening to this, Shane, keep doing that. Keep doing that, dude. I'm like, oh, here we go. Oh, wonderful.
During that octopus guard one, Shane he like just like bowled through my crossface. Like I went to crossface to like beat his octopus, and he just kind of like bowled through it and like got me back in front of him. And I was like, I was like, oh well, we haven't completely.
It's not over
yet. So I was like, cartwheel.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, he
it's that, or he just hammers the shit out of you. And I don't want to be there either. Buddy.
I was like, I don't want to let him stand up. I don't want to go in between his big ass fucking legs. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, and that's why we do situations, because you're like, all right, there's like one thing I got to do. I better do it right, or I'm fucked.
Yeah.
And that's that. It's, it at least it foists you into those uncomfortable situations rather than just playing constantly your best thing.
Oh yeah. And actually that's another thing on going into, getting into other rooms, doing that cross training, is you also pick up a lot of like really valuable training techniques. And like I've been taking a lot of these positional games we've been playing, and like adapting them to what we're doing at my gym. And I made it like a big part of like my class structure. And so like now it's like, all right, we're going to warm up with a game. We're going to go over a technique, and then we're going to play a game from the position that technique is in. And so like, hey, like I'll show you something, but like this is just an option for what we're about to do later. Like, and so it kind of creates that, it builds a context. But also like it kind of allows that development.
That's what I like about the situational style of training too, is that usually like you pick one of those things. There's actually like, it's ironic, I guess, or whatever, paradoxical, but like you like try to distill down in the drill, the game, whatever you want to call it, one action or maybe one goal. There's perhaps lots of actions you can do to get to it. Sometimes it seems like there's one action, but like you just got to get chest to chest or whatever, you name it.
You're trying to guide them to a specific thing.
Yes, but there's so much wealth of like content built within just that one thing. It gives you, there's surprisingly a lot when you're teaching like newer folks that you can take from that, and you can build a good lesson around like this one tiny thing, which kind of makes it, as a coach, like it makes your job a little bit easier, because you're like, you know what, there's actually a shit ton here. I don't need to think about all the complexity, all the possible things I can teach somebody. No, I actually want to make it really simple, because there's a really simple thing. One, it's not easy to do. It's just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah.
But it's simple. And that simplicity might mean that like it may be difficult, but they might actually understand what I'm saying, instead of showing them like a complex, 4 super duper complex moves that they're like, I don't know what the hell just happened. They're still going to learn from that too. I mean, I feel like that's how we got trained back then.
They'll hopefully pick something.
But yeah, but like that one thing, whatever it is, like you're into what you just said, like you can make the whole lesson around that. And there's a lot you can do. And like people might be like, they should be kind of tired. They should be having fun. They should be thinking a little bit. They should walk away at least understanding what that was they tried to do. They might not have it down perfectly in one class, but like you're giving them one thing that usually has, I just said chest to chest pressure earlier. I'll use it as an example. It's like if you can get that concept or principle built into their head, and you're like, hey, like this is the reason why this is super important. It's like if I can collapse my weight in, I can then control it. I can move into the next position, X, Y, or Z submission. Like I can continue to advance. And then like that concept can be applied to multiple other things. So then they're like, you gave them something simple, and then they might go home thinking about how that one thing actually achieves like 10 different goals throughout the wealth of situations they'll be in. Yeah, I mean,
well, like this week I did I showed a John Wayne sweep, and mainly because I just wanted to put everyone in half guard for like for the drill. But it was like, all right, like I'm gonna show you this one sweep, because your goal when we get into positional drilling is to sweep if you're on bottom, like you want to sweep the guy. And if they hold you for the full 4 minutes, then, they won that exchange. Like imagine you're losing, this person's on top. It's 4 minutes. They can sit there. They could pass. That's great too. They can submit, but like on bottom, you just got to get out. And so, I gave you one option, and like, let's see, you're either gonna get a lot of reps with that one move, or you might find another move within all of that. You might find set something else up that you've learned in the past. Like, and so, um, people either get really good at that one because they like it, or they find out like, oh, like this doesn't work for me, but I have these other tools too. And so like you don't force them to do the thing you're teaching them,
But you force them to think about what you need them to think about.
Yeah, you force them to think about why you taught them that specific move. And so it's good.
Yeah, I get it.
That's our time for today. Again, thank you for listening to Fighters Drinking Coffee. We've got same things. Follow that Discord. You can find that in the show notes. If you just click through, it'll be down at the bottom. Click on that link. It'll bring you straight to the Discord if that's a thing you're into. We're trying to build that community there so that we can start to interact more and more with you guys.
Take some questions from you guys. If you have questions, dump them out there.
Yeah, and some of them, if we find them like especially interesting to us or something that's not a good way to put it, but if there's some questions on there that we find to be like thought provoking, yeah, something that like we will probably end up talking about it.
Yep.
In fact, we will definitely end up talking about most of the questions that were asked on the podcast. And that way we're giving you guys content that you want. Also follow us on Instagram. That's also added in the show notes. And then as always, like, follow, review. Those reviews really help us with getting us to more listeners. So if you find our content helpful, just hit 5 stars. Even if you don't think it's perfect, let us know in the comments. Like, that's fine. You can tell us what you don't like, but hitting that 5 stars gets us to more listeners, more 5-star reviews. The more people that see us, which means the more people that it will enjoy listening to this, like you guys do here. So Fighters Drinking Coffee. Bye.